Hey y'all, welcome back. Today we're checking out Paul McCartney died in 1966. Here's the proof.
That was a section of George Harrison's song It's Johnny's Birthday played in reverse. It's a supposed clue pointing to the fact that Paul McCartney actually died in 1966 and was replaced by a double. For a period in the 60s, hundreds of these clues were found all over the material of the Beatles and the members' solo stuff as well. And whenever I put up a video on YouTube about Paul McCartney or the Beatles, I always tend to get the same sort of comments. Comments referencing this conspiracy theory. And seeing as my last video about Paul McCartney did so well, I thought, why not? Let's have a look into it. So I started researching, thinking it was all nonsense, but then I found some weird stuff. Hi, I'm Adam, welcome back to Music Mongoose.
Y'all be sure to go to Music Mongoose and like and subscribe. So I've heard this theory before. I think back when I was in college I first learned about it, and it creeped me out. And for maybe 5 minutes I actually believed that it was real. Basically, the conspiracy is that Paul McCartney died in a car accident. They had a Paul McCartney look-alike contest. This guy named William Shears won. He got plastic surgery to look even more like Paul, and William Shears replaced Paul in the Beatles so that the Beatles could keep going. But the voice is the same. The songwriting talent. Plastic surgery doesn't make you a better songwriter. I'm interested to hear some clues that I've not heard. This one at the beginning of that George Harrison song, Backwards, I hadn't heard that before. That's kind of fascinating. I just want to see that again. Let's hear that one more time. Who's going through all these songs in reverse and figuring this out? Not me.
So the gist of the theory is, on Wednesday, November 9th, 1966, the Beatles were in a writing session for Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. There were some disagreements, and a frustrated Paul McCartney stormed out in a huff. He got in his Austin Healey and sped off in a rage. This rage got the better of him as the car crashed, killing Paul McCartney there and then. Some say the crash even decapitated the poor man. Instead of announcing Paul's death, the rest of the band decided to replace him instead, so that the money-making behemoth that was the Beatles could continue. Some say that MI5 actually stepped in and told the band not to tell anyone about Paul McCartney's death because they were worried about mass hysteria and even mass suicide. The man who landed this body double gig of a lifetime, literally, was the supposed winner of a Paul McCartney lookalike contest. His name was William Shears Campbell. And William would live the life of Paul McCartney forevermore, in the Beatles and beyond. So they managed to find a man that not only looked like Paul McCartney, but also had the natural creative talent in singing and songwriting as well.
Right.
That was lucky, eh?
Yeah.
Despite the absurdity of it all, there is some truth to the car crash. In fact, there were two accidents. Sort of. A year before this supposed deadly crash, McCartney had been involved in a moped accident in...
Paul, don't ride mopeds. Not without a helmet. That's one of the things, too, is that you notice he has a scar right here after this date. Early Beatles stuff, he didn't have a scar on his lip, but I guess that's from the moped accident. Damn, he's all swollen.
Which left him with a scar on his upper lip. And in January 1967, Paul McCartney's Mini was involved in an accident on the M1 and written off. But he wasn't driving it. It was actually being driven by the assistant to the owner of the London Art Gallery. Paul McCartney at the time was actually in Mick Jagger's car, also a Mini. I mean, to be honest, all of that sounds more suspicious than the actual conspiracy theory, doesn't it?
Why?
There was also a car crash in December of 1966. Around the same time Paul McCartney supposedly died. This is the actual photo from the scene. It was being driven by Tara Brown, and it wasn't an Austin Healey. It was a Lotus Elan. The car crash did kill Tara Brown, and his death did inspire John Lennon when writing A Day in the Life, hence the connection with the Beatles and Paul McCartney. So McCartney wasn't involved in that accident. Or was he? No, I don't think so, because Paul McCartney was actually officially on holiday at that time in Kenya with his then girlfriend Jane Asher. Or was he? Very convenient to be out of the country.
Yes.
Rumours started spreading following these events, and it caused a Beatles newsletter to actually issue a statement saying that the rumours were false and Paul was alive and well. The article did mention the crash on the M1 involving Paul McCartney's Mini, but of course denied the claims that he was killed. Then the whole thing sort of went away for a bit until 1969, when it re-emerged. In September of that year, a man called Tim Harper wrote an entertainment piece.
I want to find that. Tim Harper is Paul McCartney deed. I want to read it. Come on. I'm not finding it, but I guess I could read it here. Lately on campus, there has been much conjecturing about the present state of Beatle Paul McCartney. An amazing series of photos and lyrics on the group's albums point to a distinct possibility that McCartney may indeed be insane, freaked out, even dead. Oh, okay, so this is the guy who found the clues, I think, originally?
Sort of went away for a bit until 1969, when it re-emerged. In September of that year, a man called Tim Harper wrote an entertainment piece about the rumours in a campus newspaper in Iowa. Harper inadvertently caused the rumour to spread once more, and it gained a lot of traction. One day, a caller called in to Russ Gibb. Russ was a DJ on WKNR-FM, and this caller asked him to discuss the theories about Paul McCartney's death. The caller then asked Russ to play Revolution 9, a Beatles track, in reverse. Russ entertained the idea and did it, and was shocked by what he found. The phrase, "turn me on, dead man," could be heard.
That's so creepy.
Was this a clue to Paul's true fate left by the Beatles for their fans to find? This sparked even more layers to the theory, and the rumours continued to develop and spread. In 1969, an article named "McCartney Dead, New Evidence Brought to Light" was published in the Michigan Daily. A writer named Fred LeBauer had heard this radio show and decided to turn it into a newspaper article. He used the details from the radio show and also threw in some details from his own imagination. He was the one who made up the name William Campbell. He even admitted this later on in life. Or was he hunted down by the Beatles management and forced to issue this statement? While the article was intended as a joke, it did spark a new trend of intricately examining Beatles music in the hope of finding more clues, pointing to Paul's death in 1966.
It's so creepy. It's so creepy. I think what creeped me out when I first heard about this was, the music of the Beatles is generally happy. In general. There's some dark stuff, sure. But in general, it's about love and understanding, the human experience. But then to have this blanket of darkness on top of it is really, really fun. It's entertaining. You think, oh my God, they tricked me. Wow. Amazing.
In the hope of finding more clues, pointing to Paul's death in 1966. College students in the US became obsessed with this in the late 60s. And they actually found some more clues. Like, a lot of them. Firstly, the opening lyrics of "Got to Get You in My Life" state, "I was alone, I took a ride, I didn't know what I would find there." Sort of reminiscent of Paul's rage-fueled drive after that Sgt. Pepper's writing session. And of course, in "A Day in the Life," we see the lyrics, "He didn't notice that the lights had changed." Again, referencing a car accident. But this one, of course, was about Tara Brown, who we discussed earlier. Or was it? People also theorised that the song, "She's Leaving Home," points to the exact time that McCartney died. Wednesday morning at 5 o'clock as the day begins, the lyrics say.
Album covers
and in Lady
pointing
Madonna,
at it, I think.
we hear, "Wednesday morning papers didn't come." Could that be a hint of the media suppressing the truth of Paul McCartney's death? And the clues don't stop there either. At the end of Strawberry Fields Forever, you can hear John Lennon muttering some words that people thought were, "I buried Paul." Lennon later clarified that those words were actually cranberry sauce. Or were they, Lennon? Were they? And what about the end of "I Am the Walrus"? The phrases "bury my body" and "oh untimely death" are heard deep in the mix, references to King Lear. And at the end of the song "I'm So Tired," John Lennon can be heard muttering the words "Monsieur, Monsieur, Monsieur, how about another one?" But play this one backwards, and it sort of sounds like John Lennon is saying, "Paul is dead, man. Miss him, miss him." And remember the name of the man who replaced Paul McCartney, William Shears Campbell. Well, he's apparently mentioned in Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, the song. The one and only Billy Shears, as the lyrics say. Other clues about the McCartney swap continued to emerge. People have long speculated that the shape of McCartney's ears had changed, suggesting this was indeed a different man. And let's look at Sgt. Pepper's album artwork, the very album McCartney was working on before he apparently died. The flowers are supposed to symbolize McCartney's famously left-handed bass guitar.
Also, if you cut the body of the guitar in half, it says Paul right here. See? There's also on the album cover, I don't know if you can see it. Oh. Over here are 4 wax figures of the Beatles, and they're all looking down pretty sad. Down at the grave, like this whole dirt area is supposed to be his grave. Creepy.
And at the bottom, Shiva, the destroyer, the Hindu god, is pointing at McCartney. The badge McCartney is wearing looks like it reads OPD, which stands for officially pronounced dead. But other photos from the session reveal the letters are actually OPP, Ontario Provincial Police Department. And if you put a mirror horizontally on the drum, the phrase I won, IX, he die are seen, or 11-9, as in the 11th of November, he die, the date of the supposed car crash.
So hang on. The way this was explained to me was it's 111, as in the 3 remaining Beatles, 111X, he die, and then the little diamond between he and die is pointing at Paul. That's the way that was explained to me.
The X, he die are seen, or 11-9, as in the 11th of November, he died, the date of the supposed car crash. Other clues started popping up on Beatles album covers as well. The Magical Mystery Tour record features the word Beatles written in the stars. But whack out that trusty mirror again and you've got yourself a phone number, which apparently led to a mortuary in London.
What? Okay. Damn, there's no area code. I'm gonna call it anyway and just see what happens. 231-743. Oh crap. 7438.
To place a call in this area, you must dial the area code and the phone.
Damn, there's no area code. Oh well.
And you've got yourself a phone number, which apparently led to a mortuary in London. However, perhaps the most damning evidence came from the booklet of the EP. One of the photos from the I Am the Walrus sequence shows McCartney without shoes on. His shoes are next to Ringo's drum kit and have apparent bloodstains on them. What's more, the swirly pattern on Ringo's drums apparently says, "Love the 3 Beatles." Additionally, photos show McCartney with a black flower on his lapel, while the rest wear red. And then Abbey Road hit the shelves, and yes, more clues in the album cover. For believers of the theory, the image represents a funeral procession. John Lennon in all white, the priest, Ringo Starr in black as the Undertaker, McCartney is barefoot, symbolizing a corpse, and George Harrison follows behind in denim as a gravedigger. Remember that George Harrison song at the beginning of the video? There's the link. Also, McCartney is walking with his eyes closed and is out of step with the other members of the band. Again, singling him out, like the Black Flower.
Another thing that I heard is the license plate on this Volkswagen Beetle says 28 if. 28 if right there. And the reference is that when Abbey Road was released, Paul McCartney would have been 28 years old if he was still alive.
It's worth mentioning that there are so many more clues across the material of the Beatles and their solo careers as well, but if I was to list them all in this video, it would be hours long. But they're out there on the internet if you fancy going down that rabbit hole.
I'm not going to go too far down the rabbit hole, but there is one thing I wanted to... If he's not going to show anymore, there's one more thing that I can remember. It's the album cover of Let It Be. All of them have a white background except for Paul, who has a red background. And they're all looking to the left except for Paul, who's looking to the right.
The important thing is, though, each one of these clues has quite a logical explanation. The black flower on Paul McCartney's lapel, for example, Paul said in a later interview that they just simply ran out of red flowers. And the Abbey Road album cover, Paul said it was a hot day, so he came in sandals, and they just wouldn't work for the shoot, so he went barefoot. Whether you believe the clues or the explanations debunking the clues, well, that's up to you. On October 24th, 1969, Paul McCartney did an interview with a guy called Chris Drake on the BBC to dispel all of these rumours, because they were quickly snowballing. He said in the interview, "If the conclusion you reach is that I'm dead, then you're wrong, because I'm alive and living in Scotland." Not satisfied with that, some people armed with a video camera arrived unannounced on McCartney's property in Scotland in hopes of an interview. McCartney didn't give an interview and, as you can see, was not impressed by the stunt. Some say this was a film crew from ABC News in the USA, and some say they were from Life magazine. The footage never aired anywhere, but this recording was bootlegged and subsequently spread around. Paul did do a Life magazine interview shortly after. He became the cover story for the November 7th.
That dog is his dog, Martha, who he wrote a song called Martha, My Dear, after. Well, little trivia.
Satisfied with that, some people armed with a video of an interview. Some say this was a film crew from ABC News in the USA, and some say they were from Life magazine. The footage never aired anywhere, but this recording was bootlegged and subsequently spread around. Paul did do a Life magazine interview shortly after. He became the cover story for the November 7th issue in 1969. And while this settled the majority of the rumours, strong believers continued to hunt for clues long after and even to this day. For example, in that very Life magazine cover, when you held it up to a strong light, the car advert on the reverse is seen running through the body of Paul. Spooky!
It also looks like his baby is driving.
Spooky! Other Beatles members also answered interview questions dispelling the rumours in 1969 and afterwards. Lennon, in true Lennon fashion, in one interview said the rumours are false, but it's a great plug for Abbey Road. And that was absolutely true, because these rumours were causing people to buy multiple copies just to hunt for these clues. Some people even think Capitol Records are behind the entire thing to push album sales. They denied any involvement, but also didn't do anything to stop the spread of the rumours. Why would they? It was making them money. So, what do I think? Do I think Paul McCartney died in 1966 and was replaced by Billy Shears? No. No, I don't think I do. But the whole thing really adds to the legend of the Beatles.
Yeah, it's fun.
If anything, this whole theory is testament to how much of a commercial and cultural phenomenon the Beatles were. The idea that they were so important that they had to hide the death of one of their members. I mean, that sort of legend, that sort of folklore, you just don't get in music anymore. It really adds to the mystique and the gravitas of the Beatles. And even if the real Paul McCartney did die in 1966, this Billy Shears bloke is an incredible musician.
Yeah.
I mean, he co-led the Beatles in one of their most successful periods, and then continued to have an incredible career with Wings, and as a solo artist as well. If the Paul McCartney we know and love today is actually Billy Shears, then I think he should be celebrated all the same anyway.
Yeah.
Because he's clearly one of the greatest musicians to have ever walked the planet.
Yeah.
And equally, the efforts of everyone involved to try and keep this secret under wraps should be celebrated as well. I mean, that's no mean feat. Was it the Beatles' management? Was it the government? Was it MI5? Have they been systematically silencing people who dare to speak out and publicise this theory? Have they been making people disappear? Perhaps this video you're watching right now is under threat. Perhaps I'm going to disappear. Perhaps they're going to silence...
Nice. Y'all be sure to go to Music Mongoose and like and subscribe. That was fun. Man, there are a lot of other clues. I'm trying to think of them. On the original vinyl of Sgt. Pepper, there's a photo on the back of the four of them standing there, and Paul's standing kind of like this, And his thumb is pointing to that 5 o'clock lyric, which is the time he died. Oh, also on the back of Abbey Road, there's a woman in a blue dress walking by the road sign, and supposedly that is the woman that Paul was dodging in his car. It's supposed to symbolize her, but... Oh yeah, in the White Album, there's a photo of a guy with glasses and a mustache, and that's supposedly William Shears, before the plastic surgery. But he made a great point. If it is true and this William Shears guy took over, wow, to be able to mimic Paul McCartney to such a degree. That's true talent. Can't remember any of the other clues, but he did a really good job of pointing most of them out, the important ones. I wish that phone number worked. Well, if you made it this far in the video, be sure to give me a like and subscribe. I'd appreciate it. I'd like to thank my patrons. I'd like to thank my Buy Me a Coffee folks. Thank y'all for watching this with me, and I'll see you next time. Later.